What's cracking? Welcome to Griffin and Bass. He's Griffin, I'm Bass. Before we get into everything regarding the Lions' victory over the Washington Commanders, the Spartans just laying an egg out in Seattle, and the other craziness that happened this week in the NFL, got to remind you guys to like and subscribe everywhere you can find us. That'd be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. We also got full episodes on YouTube and DetroitSportsNation.com. Ryan, I know you pulling some double duty this week, so we'll get right to it. Right. The Lions did basically what we said they needed to do on Friday before the weekend. We talked about it. They needed to start fast. And despite the first drive stalling, they did indeed start pretty fast. Field goal in the second drive, a safety after the offense failed to convert deep in Washington territory, and then a 50-yard return by Khalif Raymond off of the kickoff from the safety, bringing the Lions in great territory. 4 plays later, Goff connects with Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's 12-0 in the first quarter, and they basically took it from there. Yes, Washington fought back pretty good in the third quarter, but 22-0 at halftime. Nice big fat goose egg for Washington, a big lead for the Lions, something we're not really used to seeing here in Detroit, and they were able to hold them off when it mattered, and the Lions are 1-1. Nice start.
It is a nice start, and the first half that the Lions dominated allowed for them to, I still think, kind of show their true colors in the second half, where they were getting beat. The defense was letting up. But because they played 30 minutes of almost perfect football, it afforded them that luxury to not play 30 minutes of perfect football anymore and still come away with the win. But I mean, just kind of an overall dominant win by the Lions. They led wire to wire. Even at the end of the game when the Commanders were making their comeback, they never had the ball with an opportunity to tie or take the lead. And, you know, I think that's important because it always gave you just a sense of calm, right? Doom wasn't right around the corner with what the Lions were able to do. And I give the Lions a lot of credit for this win, not because the Commanders are some great team, but because they did come out and, again, win wire to wire, dominate totally. They came out and they won by doing the things that they wanted to do, by running the ball, having this kind of short intermediate passing game, making big plays like that, and then just responding to things they didn't do well last week. The defense didn't play well last week. It played well for at least a half, really well for at least a half this week, and it was enough to win them the game. They didn't get any type of pass rush that last week. This week, Hutch, 3 sacks in the first half. The Lions got a safety, because they got a sack real close to the goal line as well. So just kind of responding to all of that, all of the criticism that they were facing last week, and then being able to come out this week with kind of an undermanned unit and do what they did to the Commanders and just come out 1-1 was, I think, probably the best possible scenario for them.
Yeah, continuing along the lines of things that we said needed to happen or was going to happen. We did say that Hutch would get his first NFL sack in this game. It did happen. The first one I found funny because I was like, did Wentz get like half a yard running back to the line of scrimmage? I wasn't sure if it was a sack or not. And if you look at his stats, in the game, Hutch has 3 sacks, yet 2 tackles for loss. And it's like, well, that math doesn't work. But if it's a no-yard gain, it's not technically a loss either, and it's still technically a sack, so we'll go with it. Whatever. 3 sacks in the first half, fantastic. You're talking about a not full unit and stepping up. I mean, let's give a little props to the O-line replacements. I mean, you're talking about guys who need to be replaced in Jonah Jackson, Frank Ragnow, and Halapoulivaati Vaitai. Dan Skipper, Evan Brown, and Logan Stenberg, I mean, especially Dan Skipper, and I'm playing into this just for you. I know you want to talk about it, and I guess we could, but there's not enough evidence to really talk about it, so I don't know if we really should. But Dan Skipper never started an NFL game before, never played anything but tackle, going back to his days at Arkansas, and there he was at left guard. So to come out, and yeah, he allowed 1 sack, but after that first sack, really did his job and did it well, and I can't believe what we're watching offensively, where the Lions are dominating on the ground. We don't do this in Detroit. We don't have a dominant running game. Not since Barry have we had, and even then our line wasn't great. It was Barry dancing his way as best he possibly could. These guys are opening up holes. Swift, Williams, Amon-Ra on the end around, or jet sweep, whatever you want to call it. It was fantastic to see. I want to get used to it, but I'm so scared to get used to it, because if I get used to it and then they go back to the way that I've known this team to be for so long, I'm just going to be even more heartbroken. So I still want to be apprehensive about it. But there's so much hope in this offense that we are seeing early, even with Goff and the missed passes. He played very good. 4 touchdowns, obviously. And there are drops as well. But there are passes that are just off. They're just complete, and he's human, but they're just off. And so this offense could be even scarier if Goff was actually completely in sync on his timing on the routes with the receivers. But to put up 30-plus points in the first 2 games of the NFL season is not something that we are used to seeing from the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, if we had Lamar Jackson, it'd be insane. But we have Jared Goff. So for the offensive line in general, I gave this shout out on Beyond the Box, and I'll give it here. Hank Fraley, the offensive line coach, just bravo to him. The hat tip, like whatever you want to say. Him getting those guys ready who didn't, of course, expect to play a big role, and then needing them to play a big role when we have the number of reserves outnumbering the number of usual starters that you have on your offensive line. And he was able to get those guys ready and get them to play well. So just again, a big shout out to Hank Fraley there. And then with the Lions offense, having that next man up mentality, not only with the offensive line, right, but we knew DeAndre Swift was going to be on a pitch count. So Jamal Williams, you're already a big part of the offense. You're going to have to be a bigger part today. A guy like Reynolds, like, now we're going to really rely on you. And those guys stepped up. They came in, they made plays. Obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown is continuing to do what he does, which is, very, like, he's just a phenomenal receiver for the Lions. And him playing really well. In the offense in general, they scored 69 points the first 2 weeks. The Lions in total scored 71, but 2 obviously came on the safety. The Lions, 69 points through 2 weeks, and they did it against, one defense that people think is going to be pretty good in the Eagles, and then another in the Commanders, who they should at least have a good pass rush. I know they didn't have Chase Young, but it should still be like a decent defense regardless. And I do think the Lions will be able to run the ball, so kind of answer your concern. I think no matter what, the Lions will be able to run the ball. Of course, they're not going to win every game. They're not going to, run the ball like this every game. But they should be able to run the ball for the majority of the season, as long as this offensive line, stays somewhat intact. And then that will only open up the things they can do in the passing game. And Goff was a lot better this week than he was last week. And I can see why people are obviously excited for the offense. You start thinking a couple weeks down the line, if this continues, you get Jameson Williams back, then what can this offense be? But for now, it was a really good game by the offense, and I was really impressed with just kind of that unit as a whole.
Yeah, and it was nice to see. It was nice to see growth away from same old Lions, and what I mean by that is Washington's coming back. Third quarter, Washington's fighting their way back. They made it 22-15. It's a one-score game, and it didn't become 40-22 Washington. And the defense did their part. Will Harris with a big pick off of Carson Wentz to stop that whole situation, where it was, pass right up the middle intended for Logan Thomas, went right through the tight end's hands, deflected off another line defender, and right into the hands of Will. It's plays like that that need to keep happening, especially in crucial situations where the other team is trying to get back into it, and those rare glimpses where we are in the lead and trying to hold on, that is going to make it more and more feasible for us fans who have been so beaten down by this organization to continue to believe that this is a different era for the Detroit Lions. And so seeing that kind of stuff, and then seeing just some special players starting to come out right before our very eyes. Amon-Ra St. Brown, we're talking about a guy who 9 catches, 116 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 carries for 68 yards, including that 58-yard jet sweep where he had defensive players yelling, "Oh!" because they knew a big play was about to hit, because they did not see that coming. And we're talking about a guy now who's making history. He joins Antonio Brown and Michael Thomas as the only receivers to catch at least 8 passes in 8 consecutive games. And he's the first player in league history to have 6 straight games with at least 8 catches and a touchdown. There's no one else. It is just Amon-Ra St. Brown. And he is in his second year, 4th round pick out of USC. and literally the sky is the limit for this kid. And when Jameson Williams joins the fray, it just makes it that more dangerous. And if Hawk can get his stuff together and get back involved in the passing game, he's the odd man out right now as far as the offense is concerned, where he's not being what we thought he was going to be, a stud tight end, a top 5, top 10 tight end in the NFL as far as pass catching as well as run blocking. It just hasn't happened yet so far this year, but there's a lot of weapons now that we didn't have before, and he's got to pick his spots and make the most of it when Goff throws his way, and we just haven't seen that yet from him.
No, and he's a fine tight end. Should we have picked him 8? No, but I don't know that so many people wanted to pick him 8 when we picked him 8 anyway, right? So it's not necessarily hindsight or a pick that everyone was so hype about, and then it comes to fruition like Eric Ebron or Brandon Pettigrew or something, and you're like, oh, this guy actually stinks, and we thought he was sweet. Like, people thought he was fine. They didn't want to pick him there, and that's kind of what he's been, right? He's been a fine tight end. Not one of these guys that is justified where he was picked. He's not Gronk or Kittle. And honestly, we're not doing the show yet, but there's going to be a time when Hawkinson's contract comes up, and I don't expect the Lions to offer him top tight end money. I think it would personally be a mistake. But I think right now he's certainly a guy you can win with, and if he's your tight end for the next 10 years, it's fine from a player aspect, right? Because he's not a bad tight end, but with the money he's going to want, his production hasn't matched that yet, and he'll have games where we see him have 112 yards, and he's got 2 touchdowns and 8 catches, and he'll look really good. But no, he hasn't lived up to his billing from where he was picked, and again, he hasn't been bad, but he's just been he's been better than okay. He's a top half tight end. I still think he's probably a top 8-ish, 9-ish tight end in the NFL, but that's kind of it. And after you get past those top, 3 or 4 guys, the position really kind of starts to fall off, where I don't know that there's a lot of difference between tight end number 5 and tight end number 14. And I think that's kind of where Hawk falls into that area.
Want to give some props to some things that we were keeping an eye on going into the season. Start with Jeff Okudah. He's allowed 63 yards through 2 games. No touchdowns. We've got 15 tackles and a pass deflected. He's doing the job. The D this week, while we've been picking it apart as far as how bad that they can be, 5 sacks, 1 pick, 1 safety. They did the job. Clean game as well. We had 1 penalty, a false start on Penei Sewell. That is it. Clean game. These are the things that will continue to allow the Lions to keep winning, doing the right things, not beating yourself, that we have seen time and time again over the last so many decades of being a Lions fan. It's really nice to be able to brag about this football team. I'm just not used to it, Ryan.
No, and I don't even know that you can necessarily brag so much yet. But, it's nice to be 1-1, absolutely. And, we have Minnesota and then Seattle after that. So I would expect them to beat Seattle and be 2-2 at worst, and probably be feeling even better about ourselves than we at 1-1. I think the Lions are better than probably what I thought they were to begin the season, but it is still a long season. We'll still have to see. I still do have concerns about the defense. I know they played really good in the first half, gave up a lot of points in the second half, and through 2 weeks they've given up 64 points, or 57 I guess because of the pick 6. But 57 points through 2 weeks, still not good. It's still probably going to lose you a whole lot of games if you're giving up 28 points a game. So still a lot of work to be done on the defensive side of the ball, in my opinion. But the offense is certainly exciting, and we have that part down now. Now let's just work on trying to improve the other side.
Yeah, I'm waiting for them. I'm waiting to see them against an actual good defense. I want to see what this offense can do against a defense that is obvious top 5 in the NFL, and see where the offense stands. Because if they give up 28 points a game, but the offense is continuously dropping 35, we're still winning. Am I expecting it every time? Absolutely not. If the defense can be reined in a little bit and the offense can continue to flourish, it actually gives me a little bit of hope this team could be better than the 6-7 wins that I picked them for this year. But it is very early. It is week 2. We're already getting, Goff comparisons to Brady and stuff, and it's just all right, we need to slow down a little bit. It's a nice win. We can brag about the win, and that's what I'm doing. But let's not get ahead of ourselves when we have a whole season ahead of us still. But that's exactly what we're going to do with a little bit of overreaction Monday, Tuesday for you out there. So, Ryan, overreaction, yes or no? DeAndre Swift will be an all-pro this year.
So he's playing like one, but he also is just on the pitch count. So I'm going to say no. I don't see it for 15, 17 games. I don't think it's going to happen.
All right. With this offense, Jared Goff will be top 3 in touchdowns this year.
No way. This is absolutely an overreaction, is I guess how we're playing the game.
All right, and the last one, St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown will be a top 5 wide receiver at year's end.
Like in what? Just the overall top 5
argument between yards, touchdowns. You want to throw receptions in there? I guess we could do that too. But he's going to be in the argument for a top 5 receiver at year's end.
I don't think he'll have a very good case for a top 5 wide receiver, so I think that's an overreaction.
He continues to get 8-9 catches for 100+ yards and a touchdown or two. He might.
Oh, yeah, if you do that every game, then sure.
Yeah. I
think it's going to stop at some point.
We got 8 games in a row so far going back to last season and this season. So, keep the train rolling.
The wide receiver list is so stacked, though. You got Jefferson, Diggs, just guys that are playing tonight. Devontae Adams. He's 3 right there.
No, I know. All right.
Suspended DeAndre Hopkins.
Hutch is going to end up with over 13 sacks for the year.
No, 13's.
He got 3 this week.
Silly number.
How many games we got?
Just 13 is a lot. 13's a lot. I don't think it'll be 13.
All right, and Dan Campbell going to win Coach of the Year.
No, I don't think the Lions are going to have enough wins for that.
Do they have a most improved Coach of the Year? Because, there should be. It's just, you take over a bad team and you did a good job with it and you got them to, damn near 500. You should win most improved Coach of the Year.
They don't even have a most improved player of the year. They have the comeback player of the year.
Yeah, y'all need to start copying the NBA a little bit with some of these awards.
Hey, Ryan Griffin here. Thank you so much for watching today's episode of Griffin and Bass. Be sure to give us your thoughts in the comments below. Remember to click the bell to receive the latest notifications from DSN and subscribe for breaking news, community blogs, polls, contests, and other content.